are you aware of the movie Titanic?
It's funny because I talked about that with friends today.
Really?
We were talking about Titanic, yes.
Well, interesting. Life is a coincidence in so many ways. There's so many things. But yeah, do you know that movie is the second most successful film in terms of money it's generated in history? Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay, let me ask you, why do you think it is like the second most popular movie of all time? Because if I tell you what else is on that top 10 list, it's just like action movies like Avatar and stuff like that. Why Titanic, this romantic movie, do you think is number 2?
That's a good question. I mean, it's a drama, like an iceberg, like the situation they're in. But yeah, for sure, also because, like, help me with the names, but Rose and Jack, and she she finds someone. She actually has this guy from her class, and then she finds this guy from the subclass and falls in love with him, and it's like just tragic, and like he would die for her.
Right.
Exactly.
You hit it right on you hit the nail right on the head. One theory I've really heard is it's because of Jack's sacrifice. There's even an interview, there's a part where I think it's the director or the writer of the script himself. They were saying like Jack needs to die. If Jack doesn't die, the movie's fucked. And so that's one aspect, is Jack sacrifices himself for this
her
woman
to live.
Right. And what's really funny and ironic too is actually I saw the scene where he dies. She's like, I'll never let go of you, Jack. I'll never let go of you, Jack. And she's letting go of his hand as she's saying this, and he just sinks. Anyway, another thing is I think there's this female fantasy in the movie of where Rose tames the bad boy, because he kind of gets tamed, because he's like a bad guy who's stuck into the ship, like doing bad things. And there's something very romantic, I believe, for women when it becomes extreme, in the sense that a man is willing to die for a woman. I think women find that concept very romantic and very powerful. I think that is why.
But shouldn't it be mutual? Like, I'm just thinking about it. If I would be in Rose's position, like maybe it's what I want to think about myself, that I would also do the same sacrifice, because it's like the person I truly love, and I would also die for him. I don't know.
Generally speaking, when we look at the movie, the ship was like, when they knew it was fucked, they were saying, all the women and children first on the boat, and you guys can just enjoy your ride to death. There has always been this thing. Even today, if you go on a cruise ship, it's still the case today. They will say that if anything happens.
It's interesting because that was also a point in this documentary, that they were talking about why is it still that you would say women and children first, and we were actually talking about that today.
Really?
I think there's no point in it anymore, but maybe it's about like children for sure, that they should be rescued like at first, and then the person who normally takes care of the child.
I have an interesting perspective on this. So I think that men and women are different. When they're born, I think they're born of different value. So when a male and a female are both born, like a boy and a girl, I think automatically the woman is going to be more valuable than the boy. The difference is, as time goes on, the boy, if he does the right things, if he takes care of himself, he has a direction, he stays away from the bad guys, and learns to be healthy and find his purpose and all that shit, he doesn't become like worth a shoe, which is the value he's born. If he doesn't, obviously he's just worthless. So he has to build himself up. And the woman is born worth her body weight in gold, but she has to preserve that value. But why, if we look at ourselves, really, the most basic meaning, I've read a lot of books about meaning and life and stuff, but the most basic meaning to animals is to breed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why women are always more defensive about their selectiveness of males. Males, will pick anything, you know what I mean? And they're more likely, fuck it, I'm not, forget this rule and just fuck it. But whereas women he's great, but they're always looking for the reason not to with this guy. So, there are some differences here,
Yeah, I agree to some extent for sure. But I mean, I can't deny the biological perspective on that for sure. But shouldn't we be at the point of development and evolvement, this at this point, that this shouldn't be like the main reason for how we act?
I think it like takes like around 200,000 years for a creature to change its traits, at least us, like for us to change in the way we are. So I think technology is advancing so fast to where it's only been like a couple thousand years. You know what I mean?
True.
So I think it's too early, in my opinion, for us to get to that point yet.
I mean, I don't want to deny, there should be, and there are difference between women and men for sure. I don't want to deny them. I don't want to eradicate them. But I think like at this point of life, it should not always just rely on the biological perspective, because we evolved that much. Like, I mean, it's the meaning of life to reproduce for sure. But is it?
Do you want to know? Oh, do you want to hear my theory on this?
Yeah, tell me.
My favorite book, one of my favorite books. It's my second favorite book. My first is Shantaram. My second favorite book is written by a guy called Viktor Frankl. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. Have you read this book?
No.
Have I told you about this book?
No.
Okay.
But I'll write it down and then maybe I'll read it.
Okay, so it's basically about this psychologist or therapist, or I forget which one. He's a Jew, and it's Germany, and it's the Second World War, and he's in a training. He's been thrown into a concentration camp, and he has this book that he's been working on. It's gone, it's burnt away, and he's thrown in this concentration camp, and he's like, fuck, where's my meaning now? I just had this thing, now I don't know what to do with my life. And he starts examining people. Like, you know what, I'll learn from this. I'll try and learn from this experience. So he starts looking at people, and everyone's getting the same amount of food. Like most of the guys he's with, their bodies are going through the same thing, but yet some of them, their bodies survive, but others they don't. They die. He's like, okay, what's the difference? Oh shit, I figured it out. So let's look at Exhibit A. There's this one guy who's convinced the war's gonna end in 2 months, and he's like really excited, and he's doing great, and he's cheering everyone up. He's a bit positive. Then that day comes, the war doesn't end. He drops dead immediately, like in a couple hours. As he realizes this shit, his immunity system just plummets, and his body's gone. Another guy, let's say, went into the concentration camp, and he believes in God, and he had like this mini conversation with God. He said, God, listen, all the suffering that I'm going to receive now, I want to make a deal with you. I want you to remove that off my daughter, or I think it was I don't remember, but like someone he loves who's not in the concentration camp. Remove all that from her life and put it onto me, and I'll gladly go through this. And he survived. He go through this, and he's okay. So the meaning of life is simply this: justifying the suffering. Because life is a gift, but it may not be wrapped in a ribbon, but it's still a gift. And the good things are worth all the terrible things that happen. They outweigh all the terrible shit by miles, by like loads. So as long as you find a way to justify your suffering, life is extremely meaningful and beautiful in that sense.